Hi there, welcome to another tutorial. I got a lot of requests for animating this scene with the dragon and the wall. So after a while I've decided, what the hell, I'm gonna do it. And it will be a short format, just like the flying car animation I did. So we'll start with the finished scene, and I will provide a link in the description for you to download the scene. And if you want to do it yourself, you can find link here, as well as in the description to follow the original tutorial on the dragon. I've decided to do this animation in Eevee as well, and first of all we'll need to set up the Eevee rendering, and then we'll proceed with the animation. And I have a little disclaimer. I'm not going to do some complex animation which would require the inverse kinematics, so we'll just be animating the single bones, and I hope I can make at least something out of it. So bear with me please on this one, because the full dragon rigging would be way out of scope of this tutorial. Let's get started with the Eevee rendering setup. First of all, we need to switch the rendering on the render tab here from the cycles to Eevee. And don't get scared, it'll get better. And here's one thing I don't like to do. I don't know if this will be fixed in the future releases of Blender 2.8 or if it already has, but when you switch from the Eevee and cycles and vice versa, the lights have a default white color. So if I go back to the cycles renderer and go to the light settings, you can see there is a cyan color, but in the Eevee there was a white color actually. And I wanted to keep the mood and the lighting quality of the original image. So I will just hover my mouse over this color, press Ctrl C to copy that, and this will get a little tedious because I need to go switch to the Eevee, go to the light and copy it back. And I want to do this for every light. So when I go here, where's the torch light, I want to go into light, copy the color, go to the Eevee engine and copy that here, and as well here. This will be some kind of blue color, I think. Okay, I don't know why this works that way. Maybe if you know, let me know, and other guys in the comment section. I didn't look it up yet, so this is something that a little bit bothered me. So right now we have a correct color for the lights, and I think I will leave the intensity as is. Right now we switch the engine, and if you go to the settings, again to the render settings, we can enable ambient occlusion right away. Let's enable screen space reflections, and let's enable shadows. I want the soft shadows with high bit depth, and this looks much better already. And one thing I want to enable is subsurface scattering. And you can already see the wall and the snow looks different because I had the subsurface scattering enabled in cycles materials, and you can see there's this soft interpolation, and I really like the aesthetics of that, especially on the ice and the snow materials. Now we'll need to bake some indirect lighting, so go to this section, but first we need some cube maps. So I want to press Shift C to reset the cursor, select the plane and press the period to go back, And let's Shift A, let's add light probe and reflection cube map. Let's scale it up just to contain the scene, and let's add another one light probe, and it will be irradiance volume. Let's scale it up as well. We can go a little bit bigger, and let's drag that out so we have more points here, like this. Okay, and now press bake. You will see this little progress bar down here, and it'll bake all the lighting. And now look at that, this already looks great, and we just started. So let's play with that volumetrics, and let's press Shift A again to add a cube. We'll just scale it really big, and let's call that fog. You can see here in the outline view I kind of organized the scene so you could download it and not be lost, because I had a real mess here. So right now it's separated into trees and rocks collection and stuff, and the objects are properly named, so you shouldn't have problem navigating here. And let's rename the cube fog and go to the material tab and add a new material. We can call it fog 2, and here click on the surface where it says principal BSDF and just click remove. We don't need the surface shader here, and go to the volume and we'll add volume scatter. And we'll need to lower the density, but right now you can't see any fog because we didn't enable that volumetrics. So let's start with the density of 0.1 and go back to the render settings and enable, let me collapse this so you can see what's going on, and let's enable the volumetrics, and I want volumetric shadow as well. And if you disable overlays here, you already see that some nice looking scene we have right here. But I can see the density was too high maybe on this fog, so let's go back to the material settings and let's bring it down to 0.05. I think there'll be more than enough. And if you now play the animation, I had these particles going on from the mouth of the dragon. It should work. So maybe we'll just play with the particle settings a bit. Maybe we'll need some. So first of all, let me select the flame object here. That is the particle emitter here. And here in the particle settings down, I want to extend the lifetime of the particles. So they're like 200. Actually no, I want to leave that to 50. But I want to extend this so we can cover the whole animation. And I want them to go at a bigger speed, or faster speed, sorry. So let's update the velocity to -4 meters per second. Don't be scared, we'll just modify the lifetime later. And I think this is too fast, so let's go with 3. I think that will be the right amount. And go back here and we'll need to reduce the lifetime so the flame isn't that long. So I don't know, I think we would need to go maybe to 30 or something like that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Maybe 35 to have some bounces, but I don't really like bounces that much here, but this is okay. Now For the dragon animation, this will be the most tricky part to make it look kind of good. So let's go to the start and let's look at the armature, but I think I had it disabled in the overlays, so let's go to the overlays and enable bones so we can see them. And if you go to the pose mode and left click any bone, then you can manipulate it by rotating. Press R and rotate. And sorry, I will enable the shortcuts so you can see what I'm doing. This will be the way we will animate the whole dragon. Right now this is the position of the dragon where he has his wings down. So they'll be in the middle of the animation because I want the loop to start with the wings up, and then I want the dragon to be thrusting down to kind of this position. Right now we need to set the initial position of the wings, and I want them to be all the way behind the dragon. So let's select this bone and rotate it like that. And I also want to rotate this bone on the y-axis, so press R, Y and Y again. And I want to rotate the wings so maybe, just maybe, okay, this will be fine. Okay, I want to go all the way here, and I want to rotate these bones as well. Okay, I think I like this position, and rotate this on the y-axis as well. And do the same thing. We don't have to be precise, we don't have to be symmetrical. On the contrary, if it's asymmetrical, it looks much better, I think. Okay, let's look from the side. I think I like this. Maybe more like this. Okay. Now we would need to mark this initial position on the timeline. So let me just switch the rendering, because I don't know why, but the Eevee is blinking the hell out of me. We need to select the bones we will be animating and create the first keyframes. Let's select these bones we just manipulated, and we would need to manipulate some other bones like this one, this one for sure, and of course the tail. And let's press I to insert keyframes and press rotation and move all the way to the frame 30. Press I again and rotation again. By the way, I've modified the timeline here to not have 250 frames but only 30, so I can replay the animation, but we'll change that later. And now if you go to the frame 15, you have initial position on the frame 0 and the same position on the frame 30. So if you go into the frame 15 and modify it, and Blender will animate all the keyframes in between. And one last thing, here this one little bone, which is a root bone, and controls the position of the whole armature. We want to create initial position for it as well, but not rotation, but location. So I, location, go all the way to the 30, press I again, location. And now if you go to the frame 15 and look from the side, we need to move the dragon a little bit up as he flaps his wing down. So I think this will be okay. We can always modify that, so don't worry about that. Press location, and now if you press play or press spacebar to play the animation, you see that he's moving the way we want. And we want to add some movement to this, so let's select this bone, rotate it like this, so the body moves accordingly. Press I, rotation, and we want to move the tail as well, but not that much. I think this will be okay, and we can select them all, press I, insert rotation, and now you see how the tail is animated too. But I want to move this a little bit higher. Okay, maybe it will be too much, we'll see. And I want to move legs behind him as the tail goes to the front. And we didn't make any initial keyframes there, so let's select these two bones, press rotation, go to the frame 30, press rotation, frame 15, and let's move them a little bit. He kind of looks like a football player trying to kick the ball. Insert rotation. Okay. And now I want to move the head as well. So let's do that. Press I, rotation. Okay, maybe this here is too much, so let's select this bone, move it a little bit less, and right now we can fix that tail. Okay, now for the wings. We can bring them all the way down. Let's go to the frame 15 again. Let's look from the top and let's bring them back. And we need to rotate these two, so on the y-axis. a little bit like this. Okay, and now we can select all these bones we just modified and press I and insert keyframe for rotation. And now the dragon is flapping his wings. And it doesn't look so bad either. I think we would need to play a little bit with the curves on that. Let me see. Yeah, I think the thrust of the wings downwards should be a little bit faster. But worry not, let's go to the animation tab and we can switch this one to the graph editor. And let's select these bones which control the thrust the most. So this one and this one. Okay, and here, and we can modify the rotation here. So I think we can just modify the curve like this. So there is acceleration in the beginning, and there's no rotation on the Y quaternion. So let's see how it looks. I think it's a bit too fast because it literally jumps over a few frames. So maybe not so much. Just a little slope there to really make the animation go a little bit fast in the beginning. You can see. And I think the tail is a bit too much, as I was suspecting. So if we go to the frame 15, we can modify it a bit. I'm looking for the bone I want to modify the most, but I think this one. And I want to remove these keyframes in the middle, so it doesn't move there. And then I want to update the movement of this one and this one. Okay, I think that looks fine. And one last thing, there is this flame object, but we need to exit the object mode or the pose mode, and we need to first of all move it a bit like this. Let's insert location keyframe, go all the way back, location, and right now when the dragon changes his position, we want to move this as well. Insert location. Let's just check if we manage to do that. Yeah, I think that's okay. Again, doesn't have to be precise. One last thing, I think the animation could use a little update. We go to the pose mode and look at the movement of the dragon. When you look at this, when it thrusts his wing, he should go up, and I think he should stay there a bit longer. Let's try to move this here. So he like thrusts himself back a little bit more. And maybe not that much, maybe here. And I don't like the movement of the legs. I think they go the exact opposite direction as they should. So go here and delete these middle keyframes. And we can modify them to go here. And let's add keyframes here as well. So I want the rotation. Okay. Here as well. And let's rotate these. I want to make this movement real subtle. Not too much. Just to make him move a little bit, but I think this is okay. Let's look at the layout. It looks nice. Even the breath is following nicely, so I think I like it. But somehow we lost the eye. I don't know how that happened. So I think I would need to create them. Okay, let's assign the material to the eye. Let's make a new slot. There's somewhere I could use that fire material that I'm using for the flame. Click assign, and I want the same on the other side. So let's just Shift D, duplicate that, move it around a little bit. Nothing too precise. And then we need to assign these vertex groups for the bone number 3. Okay, assign. Let's link this. Assign. Okay. Should be good. Yep, okay. Okay, let's finish this. Let's look at what we have. We'll need to change the camera, so let's go to 200 frame animation. Okay, and we need the dragon to repeat the same animation over and over again. And the way to achieve that is to use nonlinear animation or NLA editor. So if you go back to the animation and select the armature, we can change this from dope sheet to action editor, and you can see there is an armature action 001. We can call that flying, and we can push it down. And when we did that, we actually removed the animation from the armature itself, and we moved it to the actions of the dragon, and we can access those in the nonlinear animation editor. And it's just like any other track editor. You can move them around, stack them up, and so on. And if you press N to access the toolbar here and select the flying animation clip, you can scroll down and find some. Oh yes, here it is. There is a repeat, and we have a 200 frames, so we can repeat the 30 frame animation how many times? Let's make it 6, and we'll reduce that to 180. Yeah, I got stuck with the math for a little while here. And of course we'll need to do the similar thing to the flame. So if you select the flame in the action editor, here you can see there's a flame action. We can leave it at that and push it down, and right here we can repeat that 6 times as well. And now, but why is it shorter? I don't know. Actually, let's see. Nope, there's no problem there. Okay, this is starting on the frame 1. Let's just leave flying as it is, and let's modify the flame action instead. So I want to move this here and push it down, and we can remove this. Now I'll repeat this 6 times, and it should work correctly. And it doesn't. And I know why. Because we modified the movement of the dragon. If you look at his flying animation, we moved the position here 5 frames, but we didn't do that for the flame. So let's select the flame action, and we need to move that too. So when we look from the side, okay, that'll be better. Let's save this. Okay, I think this will work for the whole animation. And right now I just want to finish the camera movement. For the camera movement, we'll leave the original camera as is, we don't need that. And let's enable overlays. Let's center the cursor to the scene, and let's add new camera. Let me pause this. So we have a new camera, and I want to reset its rotation so it's facing downwards, and rotate it along the X. So I'm pressing R and X, and let's move it out on the Y-axis. Let's look through it, but we need to enable it, so go here to the scene settings, and from the true ISO cam switch to the camera, and with the camera active just press G and Z to grab it on the Z axis and bring it up, and we can drag it further out, I think, so we can go GY and drag it all the way out. But there's a better solution to this. Let's go step back, and we don't need to move the camera at all because we can add the circle curve, modify that to find the camera origin. Again, doesn't have to be too precise. And right now we can parent the camera to the circle and create the pad animation the same we created it on the flying car, but this is a closed circular path. So let's do that. Follow path. Now if you can play it, the camera will rotate around, but we need more frames for that, so let's select the curve, go to the pad animation settings, and instead of 100 frames enter 180, and now the camera will do a complete circle. So now if you go to the 0, you will see the camera is rotating correctly, but it's down. And now we can move the camera around, but we can take the whole circle and move it instead, and the camera will stay attached. And we can press S to scale, and we can scale this circle to move the camera away from the scene. Okay, you have to press the double X. Now the circle, bring it out, we need to scale it, and let's enable the render view so we see what's going on. Let's press play. I think that looks kind of cool, and we need to manipulate that light I've talked about earlier. I don't like the position of it, so I want to move it behind the dragon. Now we could get rid of that completely, but I like the shadows it's throwing around, and it doesn't have to have any particular origin. Now if I like it creatively, I can just leave it there. But this is... now suddenly it's weird. I don't know. You know what? Let's leave it where it was. And move it a little bit further from the dragon. Maybe we can give it more intensity and move it further away above the camera. So the dragon is highlighted, but actually the light is not anywhere visible. And we can add a little more detail to this light here, because it's a torch light, so we maybe want to flicker it a little bit or something like that. So you can go to the animation again, switch back to the graph editor, and let's go to the light, enable the render view because we want to see it, and we can insert the keyframe, but not here, but on the light settings, and we want to insert it on the power, so press I over the power, and if you go over the window here and press period, it will zoom on that keyframe, and you can see there is a straight line because there is no other keyframe. And if you press N and go to the modifiers, you can add the built-in function modifier, and you already see, if you press period again, you already see that the light went darker and it started to flicker, but in the negative direction. And that's because you have to click additive, and that's when the built-in function will take your initial value from the keyframe here and build the function around it. And right now the function is sine, and I'm perfectly okay with that. We just need to play with the phase and amplitude. So I want to create the flickering, so let's ramp up the amplitude so we see what's going on, and now we'll stretch out the phase. I think like this, and now bring the amplitude down. So the actual flickering is really subtle. Nothing too dramatic. One last thing, let's go through the render settings again to make sure everything's okay. And by the way, you can switch to the camera by pressing 0, and let's enable bloom. That always helps. Go to the color management section and let's bring down the exposure to 0, and let's add a high contrast. I think that's much better already. And I want a little bit of motion blur and depth of field as well, but we need to set it up first. So leave depth of field enabled and select the camera, go to the camera settings, and under the depth of field I want to choose the focus object. In this case it'll be the wall, and now I want to bring the f-stop completely down. So I kind of like this. I think I'm good with this as a final animation. So that's it. There's one other thing we can do, and that's to play with the camera movement again a little bit, because right now it's very linear, and maybe in this part we don't want to look at the back of the dragon so much, so we could speed it up. And we first need to modify the original path animation, so select the Bezier circle and go to the animation tab again, and right here you see there's already a generator attached. So if we remove that and play our animation, our camera stopped moving, but actually we can still, it's still attached to the animated property. We just removed the generator. So if you go to the path animation, you can see the evolution time is just standing still. So if we insert keyframe here on the frame 0 and go all the way to the end of the animation, enter 180 and insert keyframe again. You can see already there's the animation curve, and if you play it, there's easing in place and the camera slows down when it reaches its initial position. If you go with mouse over the graph and press period, it will zoom on the whole animation. And right now we need to enforce this effect even more, so we need to really speed up the animation in the center and really make it slow in the beginning and the end, and we'll reach it like this. Now if we preview this, there's nice little slowdown when the camera reaches this point. But maybe I don't like the angle where the slowdown is happening, because it's directly in the front of the wall. But I think we can modify that by simply rotating this circle around the z-axis. So we go to the frame 0, press RZ, let's press 45, so we have this nice angle, and right now that's much better. Okay, so this is our animated dragon video. I hope you liked it. Let me know in the comment section, and if you do this, don't forget to tag me on the Instagram with the Polygon Runway handle. I like to see the creations of you guys, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and that bell button to get notified when I release something new. So thank you guys for watching and have a wonderful day.